DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Bluegrass legend Del McCoury brings the 14th Delfest Music Festival to Cumberland, Maryland this Thursday through Sunday. We spoke about his journey from being inspired by Earl Scruggs' banjo playing as a teenager to join Bill Monroe's Bluegrass Boys, then forming the Del McCoury Band and being invited to join the Grand Ole Opry.
Del McCoury, how you doing, Jason?
Hey, thanks for joining us, Del. We're talking because you are bringing back the 14th, I think at this point, annual Delfest to Cumberland, Maryland. It'll be May 26th through 29th, so Memorial Day weekend. Can you believe it's been 14 years? Has it really been that long?
I can't believe it's been that long. and you know, we missed 2 complete years, really.
Because of the pandemic. So I guess that's that'll be one of our big headlines this year. Is, let me ask you, how excited is it to be back after such a long hiatus? It's got to be exciting to play for live people in the crowd at Delfest again.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, of course, we've been doing shows, up until now, but it just so happened, that we couldn't, that first year, the year 21, we just couldn't, I'll tell you what, on March 9th of 20, I played the Grand Ole Opry. I'm a member of the Grand Ole Opry.
Of course.
And it was a Tuesday night. And so we heard then that there could be a pandemic, and boy, that week, though, it just, everything shut down. My manager and my booking agent, they cancel shows, and the venues, they cancel shows. And we didn't do anything till that fall, till they could figure out where they could put people in pods, and get them separated and do some shows before it got too cold that fall,
Wasn't that first week or two, whatever that was in March, where you could kind of hear about it overseas? Wasn't it weird? It was, you said you were down at the Grand Ole Opry up here in DC. I was shaking hands and interviewing Garth Brooks when he got the Library of Congress Gershwin Prize. And, you could you heard about there was something maybe overseas, but we none of us could have predicted that everything was going to get shut down like it did. It was nuts. But I'm glad we're back out. Let's talk about this year's Delfest then. So who all do we got on the bill with you this year?
Oh God, Jason, I have a poster here, and there's a lot of them. Let's see, we've got Tyler Childers, we've got the traveling McCourys besides the Del McCoury Band, and Tyler Childers with the traveling McCourys, Railroad Earth, Bailiff Fleck, My Bluegrass Heart. He's got a band this year that's called My Bluegrass Heart. Sam Bush, of course, my old buddy. I did a lot of shows with Sam. We went out one time. We recorded a record, and then we went out on the road with that record, and we had a great. But then, and we got Robert Earl Keane. I think they tell me he's retiring soon. So we're fortunate to have Robert Earl Keane there, and got Leftover Salmon, and we got some of the jam bands, one we call Watch House, California Honey Drops from California, Sierra Hull. That's the lady that plays the mandolin, and boy, she's great.
Yeah, I know.
The Jerry Douglas Band, Anders Osborne and Jackie Green, Molly Tuttle and the Golden Highway, Cabinet, the Little Smokies, Ghost of Paul Revere, Steve Poltz, Chris Jacobs, Della Mae, that's the all-girl band, Frank Sullivan from Baltimore. Hey. Yes. Frank Sullivan, the Dirty Kitchen. The Seldom Seen from DC.
Yeah, we know them well around here.
There you go. Sister Sadie, Rob Ikes and Trey Hensley, Jacob Jolliffe Band, the Hot Club of Cowtown, Eric and Lee Gibson. That's the Gibson brothers. They're great. They're great singers, you know. And they're from up in New York. And Fireside Collective, Dre Onders, Twisted Pine, Pert Near Sandstone, the Broomsticks. I've got a grandson that plays in that band. Jacob's Ferry Stragglers, Crying Uncle Bluegrass Band, Britches Bend, the Price Sisters, Caleb Stein, Dirty Glass. We're getting close to the end. Dirty Glass Players, 19th Street Band, 14th Street Band. Wait a minute, let me see this.
I think it's 19th, yeah.
and Darlington, and our MC is the great Joe Craven. He's from out in pretty close to Sacramento. He lives out there in California. You know, I've known him for a long time. He used to play with David Grisman. We call him the Dog out there on the West Coast, but now he's a great MC, and
wow.
he also brings his band with him too. He comes and plays.
You deserve, sir, you deserve an award for rattling off every single one on the poster. And you know what? And not just a boring list of names. You were stopping every time that there was a local connection or, you know, a little tidbit. I really love it. I love it. And my wife and I appreciate, well, she's a huge fan of yours too. She was thrilled I was interviewing you, but we both really love Tyler Childers too, you know, Nose to the on the Grindstone and Follow You to Virgie. Like that's some good red dirt country stuff there. But yeah, well, that's a great lineup. But I want to talk a little about your career, but before, really quick, just talk about why Cumberland, Maryland, and you know the place you've been playing there. Why is that such a good spot for the Delfest? I mean, that's, you know, I guess we're Cumberland, we're up in the Appalachian Mountains. You know what I mean? It's perfect for bluegrass and country.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'll tell you, Jason. In the beginning, my manager, he said to me one day, he said, "Did you ever think about having a festival?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. You know, I played one. I played the first bluegrass festival there was in Fincastle, Virginia. Carlton Haney was the promoter, and it was 1966. Now, he ran in 1965, but I didn't even know about it. I was on the West Coast then. And
right.
So I played it in 66, and I always thought about, you know, having a festival, but I thought I would not want that headache. And so my manager mentioned it to me, and I said, no, I wouldn't want to have that headache. You know, I just don't want to. And he said, well, now look, you can dole out a lot of your work, you know, to other people now that you would have to do it like you used to do. So he said, let me call this guy that he's got this festival in Northern California. It's called High Sierra. That's the name of the festival there. And of course,
like the old Bogart movie.
yeah. We'd worked for this guy before, you know, quite a few times. And he said, I'm gonna call him and have him come to the East Coast and look for us a location, you know, somewhere, because he's into the festivals. He knows where they all are. He knows the venues that you could get, you know, and all like that. And so lo and behold, I thought, well, they'll probably do it, and I probably won't be. But then anyway, my manager called me one day and he said, yeah, he's going to meet us in Baltimore. He's going to fly to Baltimore, and we're going to look at some places. Well, the first place we went to was Cumberland, and I flew up there, and my manager lives in Tampa, and so we flew up there, and he showed us, you know, the place that had that Rocky Gap.
Yeah.
We went there first, and well, he said, now look, there's one more place I'd like to show you here before we leave this part of the country. And so we went to the Allegheny County Fairgrounds, which is not far away. It's just on the other side of Cumberland, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there, and I told him, I said, you know what? I've played a lot of festivals out in Colorado and California, you name it. And I said, you won't find a prettier location than this, as far as a location goes. Now, I don't know about all the other things that we'll run into, you know, like the politics and all that of this community. But as
But as
far
far
as
as the location for music, it's perfect.
it was, and I said, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't go any further than right here, because, the Potomac River goes right around it, and it's not very big there yet, but and it's flat, nice place. And when you look across the river, it's like you could almost touch West Virginia, and it's
Yeah.
straight up. They say if you flatten out West Virginia, it's bigger than Texas.
Oh, yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, and not many people know this, but the famous, John Denver, Take Me Home Country Roads is actually about Maryland driving to West Virginia. So it makes sense. You can see West Virginia from Maryland.
Sure, you
Um,
can.
I love it. Well, so wait, if you don't mind, remind our listeners, where exactly did you grow up? Was it North Carolina or where was it?
No, I didn't. My folks are from North Carolina, and three of the kids were born down in East Tennessee and North Carolina, but me and the next three were born in York County.
Ah, okay.
York County, PA.
PA, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of my early music playing was in Baltimore mainly.
Ah, so yeah, so from around this area then. Yeah, that's why we know and love you around here.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then how did you get into, playing, banjo and all that? Was it Earl Scruggs inspired you, I read?
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, when I was going to high school, what the kids were listening to was Elvis Presley, man. That's all they listened to. The kids my age. But I had already heard Earl Scruggs, and he kind of ruined me. He did.
In a good way.
In a good way. Yeah, because, man, when I heard him play, I was my older brother now. He was a guitar player and a singer. And he played on the radio in Hanover, PA.
Oh, wow.
And so when I got up about 9 years old, he wanted to show me how to play chords on the guitar, which he did. Well, I did, and then... but I just was not really that interested. And he bought a record of Earl Scruggs in 1950. And I'm telling my age now, too.
It's all right. It's all right.
I thought, man, whatever this guy's doing, I want to try to do what this guy's doing. Well, the good singer was Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis. They were big in those days.
Mm-hmm.
But, kids... I guess a kid, when I heard that banjo, it was fast and that forward roll, it just grabbed me, and it really didn't let me go for years and years, because my first job was playing with Bill Monroe, and he's the father of bluegrass.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Bill Monroe. I mean, Bill Monroe. Needs no introduction. I mean, that was my grandfather's, I think, favorite artist. We used to always sing, what is it, Blue Moon of Kentucky and in the Pines and all those great.
Oh yeah.
Where the sun never shines. And you shiver till the cold wind blows. But I had to finish it. But yeah, I was gonna ask you. So how did you actually hook up with Bill Monroe? Because I mean, I guess you were admiring Earl Scruggs, but Flat and Scruggs they were with the Bluegrass Boys, right?
Yeah. See, when I first heard Bill Monroe, those guys were in the band.
Right.
And of course, by the time though that I got old enough to really pay attention to music, those guys had quit, and my brother bought that record of Flat Scruggs doing "Roll in My Sweet Baby's Arms."
Mm-hmm.
And really, it wasn't it was the backup behind Lester singing is what really grabbed me. The way he played that banjo, it was really amazing. Well, I tell you, and later in years, I just figured out the guy was a genius. I thought, I don't hear a lot of guys that can play just like this guy, but really, he was a genius. He really was. And so I was hearing the best when I first heard a banjo. I was hearing the best.
So how'd you join the Bluegrass Boys with Bill Monroe then? That was in what, 63?
It was 63. I'll tell you what, I was playing in Baltimore, playing banjo. Now, I started playing that when I was I started playing guitar at 9. At about 11, I heard Earl Scruggs. And I started playing a banjo then. I got an old cheap banjo, and I was playing that. And I played it for about 10 years, till I was actually over 10 years, because I was playing in Baltimore with a guy named Jack Cook, who was an ex-bluegrass boy. He was a guitar player and a lead singer with Bill Monroe in the late 50s. But he moved up there to Baltimore and was playing club work, And I went in there one night and he found out I was a banjo player, and he said, "Did you bring your banjo with you?" I said, "Yeah." And I played for him, and he hired me right on the spot, And later on, Bill Monroe came through town because he needed Jack Cook to go with him to New York City. His guitar player had quit, and of course, he was on the Grand Ole Opry and on Decca Records at that time, and so he knew that he could get Jack. Jack knew all of his material, see, and he could stop in and get Jack and go on to New York City and do this show. He had a fiddle player and a bass player with him, but he didn't have a guitar player lead singer. And so Jack said, "Did you bring a banjo player?" And he said, "No." He said, "We'll just take Del with us. He can play all your stuff, I really didn't know all of it. But anyway, they took me with them to New York City, and I thought, boy, we'll get up there and we'll probably rehearse the show and do all this and that, And the way it worked out, we just tuned up and went out on stage. I mean, it was like baptism by fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I walked right on the stage with Bill Monroe. First lick I ever played with the man was out on stage,
Oh man, that's intimidating.
I'll say that. I didn't go out on a limb playing nothing. I just stuck to the basics,
Yeah, right.
But he liked what I did, and he offered me a job that night.
And didn't he eventually promote you up the ranks of the band too? Didn't you start playing, worked your way up and even became lead singer after a while?
Yeah, well, what happened, I told him that night that I was, Jack was more my age, I was like 22 maybe then, and Jack was not much older than me, and I liked playing with Jack. And I just didn't want to leave. And so finally, though, I made up my mind, I should take him up on that job. But when I went down to Nashville, he still had not hired a lead singer and a guitar player, and he wanted me to do that instead of playing banjo. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. But I did not go down there for that. I really didn't. I didn't go down there to play guitar. But see, I knew how to play a guitar, and I knew all parts of singing. I could sing any part,
Mm-hmm.
I could sing a tenor or a baritone or whatever, lead. And so he needed me to sing lead. He needed that worse than anything. So I hired on that way. That's the way I wasn't hired on to him till then. I just guested with him up there in New York City when he wanted to hire me, And so, and I never seriously went back to playing banjo since then.
Stay tuned for the rest of my conversation with Del McCoury, but first, a message from a fellow WTOP podcast.
DMV Download, the new daily podcast from WTOP News, is out now. Hosts Megan Clorty and Luke Garrett get the story behind the story.
Every weekday afternoon, Megan and I will go beyond the headlines with WTOP reporters and sources to bring you more on the biggest local stories impacting you, our fellow Washingtonians.
The DMV Download podcast is available now on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe today so you don't miss an episode. The DMV Download podcast is presented by Steamfitters Local 602.
Welcome back to Beyond the Fame for the rest of my conversation with Del McCoury.
I quit Bill and went to California and played banjo in a band out there that had a TV show, and
What was it called? Do you remember?
The Golden State Boys.
The Golden State Boys.
That was their name. Of course, they took the name of California, the Golden State,
Sure.
as a bluegrass band, because they were the only one there, I think, at the time. So I took a job with them, and then, but I wasn't really satisfied until I came back east, came back east back to PA. And then when I got my own band, I just kept playing guitar, because I figured that would be better. I did most of the singing, and I would be better off playing the rhythm in the band, because the rhythm guitar is really important in a bluegrass band. And if you have, of course, I had to get musicians that some of them were not all pros yet, and they needed somebody playing a rhythm, strong rhythm for them to play too, So, So I did that and mostly played in York County, but mostly in Baltimore. Sometimes in D.C. I would play in D.C., but mostly Baltimore. That's where I played for years, you know.
Did you ever happen to play in a little town between Baltimore and Cumberland? It's called Frederick, Maryland. That's where I am calling you from right now.
Oh, really? Oh, I did. I did play Frederick. And you know, there was a country music park there. I forget the name of it now.
Well,
Happy
I don't know if it was maybe the Frederick Fair, maybe Planet might have played. I don't know.
Well, I don't think I did. Now, I played there recently, but I can't remember the name. It was a theater. But
Maybe the Weinberg Center, maybe?
yes, I think I did. Yes, I did.
Maybe.
But that was recent now. Back in the day, I remember a park. Seemed like it was Happy Johnny, his name was, and he had a park, and he booked bluegrass and country music.
Happy Johnny. See, I'm gonna now have to, after we get off here, hop on Google and learn about Happy Johnny.
I'm pretty sure that was. I don't know why that name came to mind, but I think it's Happy Johnny, and I can almost name the park. Then there was a New River Ranch, which is in Maryland, but it's north of Bel Air on Route 1. And then there was Sunset Park just across the line in PA up towards on up Route 1. And then there was I played those places. I played when it came to a park. And then of course we'd play carnivals back in that day, you know. And then for steady work we'd play a club, you know. And you know, the first band that played Carnegie Hall, first bluegrass band to play Carnegie Hall was playing a little bar there in Baltimore.
Huh.
Before Bill Monroe or Flat Scruggs or anybody.
Wow.
Alan Lomax was a folklorist. He came down to Baltimore and got this band and took them up there and they put them on record. They hadn't done a record yet. And he put them in Carnegie Hall. It was Earl Taylor and the Stony Mountain Boys. And they were there. Now I'll tell you, DC had Buzz Busby and the Bayou Boys.
Buzz and the Bayou Boys. Okay, and they were DC. And by the way, I just looked it up. Yeah, Happy Johnny was a fiddler and band leader. He even was on the radio in Frederick here at WFMD, and I think WBAL in Baltimore. But yeah, you were right. Happy Johnny.
FMD, I remember that call letter now. Yeah. Now he had this part, and I don't know where it was. But then, you know, see, and I'm thinking now that Buzz Busby and the Bayou Boys, you know, the Country Gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this is before the Country Gentlemen. Buzz Busby moved up to D.C. from Louisiana, and he brought this guitar player with him. His name was Charlie Waller. And they had been playing. Oh, pay no attention to that. That's my fax machine.
That's Happy Johnny calling.
Probably is. Yeah. Anyway, he played the Buzz Busby played the shucks. What's that place in Louisiana? The Hayride, Louisiana Hayride. It was called. It's in Shreveport, and. Buzz told me in the later years, you know, he said, you know, I had a poster in the trunk of my car and it said, appearing tonight, Buzz Busby and the Bayou Boys featuring Elvis Presley in little letters.
Whoa.
He said, I went to the trunk of my car and I thought, I wonder if that thing's still in there because this guy's getting famous. and he went to the trunk of the car and no poster. Somebody snatched it, you know.
Right.
But he moved to DC and he was big around there. And I'll tell you, that was before the Stoneman family. You remember the Stoneman family, you know. That's where they originated, right there in DC. And I used to play a TV show there. And the guy that ran that TV show, it was on Channel 5. He played a guitar left-handed and sang, and he was a great MC, and he had this show, and the Bluegrass Champs were on there. That's what they call them then. But it was actually the whole Stoneman family, Pop Stoneman and all the kids, you know. And me, I got a job with a guy named Keith Daniels, and we'd go play that TV show. We went there often, and then we'd go down and play the barn dance in Richmond. WRVA barn dance. That was when Carlton Haney ran it. So We had a lot of places that we play, you know. That was the first job I really had around home. There was with Keith Daniels and the Blue Ridge Ramblers. He had a band, and we played all over Maryland and PA, you know, and Virginia and DC, Baltimore.
Yeah.
That was back.
I'm loving hearing all the, you know, the local stuff.
Yeah, I'm telling you, DC was big. Now, what happened? Buzz Busby was playing a little bar there in some corners of Tyson's Corner, I think it was called.
Yeah, Tyson's Corner, Virginia.
Yeah, he was playing a bar there, and of course, like I said, Charlie Waller was playing guitar with him, and Bill Emerson was playing banjo, and he had a car wreck and was really hurt bad.
Oh no!
And so Charlie Waller he thought, well, I'll get this boy I know plays mandolin, and we'll just keep playing until Buzz gets better. And this boy's name was John Duffy.
Ah.
Did you ever hear John?
I that does ring a bell, actually.
Okay. Well, what happened then? They renamed this band because Buzz, he never did come back in the band. He was not in good shape after that car wreck. They named this band the Country Gentlemen. So Buzz is the one that started the Country Gentlemen. Now, the Country Gentlemen is it's all changed. You know, Dudley Connell is in that band now, and Ben Eldridge. Well, I think Ben was retired, but the Seldom Scene then they sprang from the Country Gentleman band. You know.
Gotcha. And Seldom Scene is on the bill for Delfest that you mentioned.
That's right. Yeah, they really got big. You know, and they played in Georgetown. Played a place called Shamrock Inn. Shamrock.
Yeah.
I go there. I used to go there and see them.
Oh, they're well known around here. Well, yeah. I mean, I've enjoyed all the different, you know, local names you've been throwing out, and all the local venues been thrown out. It's great, but real quick, it'd be a sin not to ask you about, you know, I want to know when you actually formed the Del McCoury Band with your sons, you know, Ronnie and Rob. When did that whole ensemble actually take shape?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You know, when I got my own band, I was in my 30s, and everybody in my band, and they lived in Maryland or PA, you know. And everybody in the band were in their 30s, you know, like middle to late 30s, early 30s. Anyway, and my boys, they were just little guys, you know, and it never dawned on me that those guys would play music, my kids. So, but then as time went on, the mandolin player, he quit, and Ronnie was just a kid, and he was only 14, I think, when he came in the band. He had 1 year of high school left. And he came in the band, and he was just kind of playing rhythm chops on the mandolin. And that summer, he came, and I told him, I said, now, I was going 4-piece. I had strong musicians. I had a banjo, fiddle, bass, and guitar, and we were all strong players. We didn't really need a mandolin at the time, but I told my son, I said, you can come in and play rhythm on the mandolin, you know. And that summer, while he was he learned all kind of things on that. He was getting really good fast, you know. Kids learn fast. I'll tell you, Jason, if a kid comes into a professional band when they're young, they will learn in leaps and bounds. It's really amazing. And so I had a tour in Europe. I was going to go to Europe for a month, 30 days. And every day I was going to be playing somewhere, like I was going to play. Well, I told Ronnie, I said, now you can't go over there. You got to stay here and go to school. You know, you got to finish your high school out. So one day he told me, he said, hey, my principal wants to talk to you. You know, and I thought, uh-oh, what's he done? I don't know if I called him up or went to see him. I can't remember now. But I talked to the principal, and the principal says, now, Ronald tells me that you're going to go on a tour. And I said, yeah, I am this winter, you know, well, in a month or two, I forget. And he said, well, let me see now. Can you tell me exactly where all you're going to be playing? I said, well, yeah. I said, we start our tour in Holland. That's where we start. And we play for that. There's a promoter there. Then he farms us out to other promoters in other countries. And we're going to be playing in Sweden. We'll go to what's the big town in Sweden? It's the big town.
The big town.
Yeah, I forget what it is.
Talking about Stockholm?
Yes, we went to Stockholm. And on the way up to Sweden, we played Copenhagen, Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
Then we went from there to South Germany and played there. We had one, we had one date in France. Forget the name of that town. But we had, and we played, I forget the countries now. There's another country there close to Holland. My mind ain't just working just right now.
There's a lot of memories and a lot of experiences stored up there. So.
You forget a lot of things. Anyway, it was a solid month, And you know what his principal said to me? He said, well, Ronald has asked me if he can do this. And I said, really? I said, I had no idea. And he said, you know what? I think he will learn more over there in that month than he would here. And I won't make him make up his work. And I thought, oh no, I've got to babysit this kid now. And so that's how that worked out, And of course, at that time I had a bass player that was about 18. And Ronnie was I think he was 14. I think he was. But that he had somebody close to his age. And so it worked out pretty good. And we did a live record over there and did another record as soon as we got back home here. We went down in Virginia and recorded down in the studio somewhere. And so he's been going at it ever since. And Rob, the banjo player, my brother played bass in my band. And he quit me and went with Don Reno, who was at that time living in D.C. Don Reno and Red Smiley. They were really professional band. They had been in Roanoke. They had a TV show in Roanoke. They played every day, every morning on a TV show in Roanoke, Virginia. It was sponsored by Kroger. Kroger was their sponsor, and he quit and moved up to D.C. and was working out of there, and he heard my brother with me playing bass, and he called my brother up and hauled him right out from under me. Because he liked his bass playing, So anyway, I told Rob then, I said he was playing banjo, but from the time he was 9 till now, till this point in time, which is after he was out of high school. And I told Rob, I said, you're going to have to play bass. I don't have a bass player, and I know he was kind of comfortable playing banjo, but that bass, he knew how to play one though. He'd been around my brother so much, and he'd showed him all kind of stuff on the bass. He was a good bass player. Well, he played with me for a year, I think it was, and then my banjo player quit, and I said, now look, I can get a bass player. I want you to play banjo. So he came in right after high school. And so he's been here ever since too, and I turn around and here these kids are playing on stage with me, but I couldn't ask for anything better because, they're really good at what they do.
Yeah. And to get to play, play and travel and tour and, with family. I mean, that you can't beat that.
I know. I'll tell you what, if they weren't good enough, they wouldn't be with me.
Oh yeah. No, I know you they have to have the chops to keep up with that.
Yeah, man. They had the chop. They really did from a young age,
That's really well. They get it honestly, as the phrase goes. But well, hey, I guess before we run, I mean, of all the accolades, I think you've got like the International Bluegrass like Entertainer of the Year like 9 times or something. You've won a couple Grammys. You got inducted in the Grand Ole Opry, like you mentioned. I guess that was back in 2003. Of all the accolades, which one? I mean, was it the Opry, or what was it that was sort of like the biggest validation? Like, I made it.
Well, I think it was the Opry because I listened to the Opry since I was a kid. In fact, when I was not old enough to listen to radio, and my dad and brother would listen to that on Saturday night. They'd have it on there, course, it was just something that I always heard, and I knew Bill Monroe was on there, and I knew all the great players went through that Grand Ole Opry or were still on there, when I joined. And so I think it was probably the most exciting thing in my career. Really, I think it was.
Well, was anyone there like that? Like who inducted you? You know what I mean? Like, were there any good stories of the fellow people there that inducted you?
Yes, I'll tell you what happened. IBMA, the International Bluegrass Music Association, we started in Owensboro, Kentucky. That's where we started having it started in 1985. Of course, I'd go there every year, and it was a good thing for our music, because country music they formed in 1965, with the CMA, and it was 1985 when Bluegrass formed an organization. And it was good because the promoters had come there, the musicians had come there, all of the business people, of Bluegrass. And so we started there, but then we moved from there to Louisville, Kentucky, to a bigger venue. We played in the Galt House there, and at the award show and all like that was held there, and I won some kind of an award that year, and I was at the up there at the podium, talking, and two guys walked up beside me, and I thought, I wonder what they're doing there. I looked over at them, and it was Ricky Skaggs and Sonny Osborne.
Wow.
The Osborne brothers,
Yeah.
And I thought, I bet these guys are going to play a trick on me. And so about the time I looked over there, Sonny said, Del, where were you at 40 years ago tonight? And I said, oh God, I have no earthly idea. And I don't know what he's up to,
Yeah. Where's he going with this?
Where's he going with this? And so he said, well, I'll tell you what. You were on the Grand Ole Opry singing with Bill Monroe. And he said, Ricky Skaggs and I wonder if you would like to join the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
And here I'm right in the middle of my speech, and I know it screwed me up bad.
I can't think straight.
I know. I had to finish what I was starting, But that's how it all happened, Rick. Of course, I'd known them. I'd known those guys all my life, just about. I knew Ricky Skaggs when he was still in high school. He played with Ralph Stanley, and I met him. Of course, I had my own band, and I was playing same shows that Ralph Stanley was playing. And also I was playing a lot of the same shows the Osborne brothers played, and so I knew those guys, for a long time, and it was really a thrill. But I'll tell you what, when I joined, the one that she came up from Georgia to help induct me into the Grand Ole Opry. The one that asked me to was the guy, he's passed away now. Let's see. Oh God. But anyway, Patty Lovelace came up, and she's the one that inducted me into the Grand Ole Opry, her and the opera manager,
Oh, wow. Patty Lovelace, a legend for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing those stories. That's great. I wanted to hear, that moment where, deer in headlights, you heard that you were going in and I can't think anymore. Oh, that's great. Well, again, we want to tell everyone to come out to the 14th Delfest. It's in Cumberland, Maryland again. It's May 26th through 29th. So head to delfest.com to find out more information. And hey, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast. So I could have talked to you all day.
Hey, look, Jason, are you coming to Delfest? Because we'll put your name in at the gate. All you have to do is walk in.
I'll shoot you an email.
Do that. Do that.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.